The media spin of it is like, why ruin a good story by telling the truth?
The story of Jordan X. Annie, this week on Upvoted by Reddit. Welcome to episode 4 of Upvoted by Reddit. I'm your host, Alexis Ohanian. Last week, we brought you the story of Daystorm Power. This was an awesome interview, and I'm so grateful that Daystorm took the time out to do it. I just was blown away by what this guy has been able to accomplish, and he really put into perspective my last 32 years on this planet, and I'm sure he will inspire you too. So be sure to take a listen. He actually just did a Reddit AMA this weekend, so we'll be including a link to that over at r/upvoted. You'll see the link for episode 3, all the different ways to enjoy it, and then the discussion that we have after every episode about what you all thought. So please, if you haven't joined, get over there, subscribe to r/upvoted, and let us know what you're thinking. This week's episode is about Jordan X. Annie. Now, he may be better known to you as u/Jax Annie or JX Annie. Anyway, it's spelled JAXANI. And a post that he made to r/Canada, which made him a media sensation. Just about everyone has been through a bad breakup. Some are much worse than others, though. But rarely do they include round-the-world airplane tickets. But that's exactly what happened to Jordan, and he found a way to take this and turn it into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But before we hear from Jordan and get into his story, here's a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. They are the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. Hopefully many of you saw their awesome Super Bowl ad with none other than Jeff Bridges. Start with a free trial at squarespace.com with no credit card required. When you're ready to purchase a plan, get 10% off with the offer code UPVOTED at checkout. That's squarespace.com, offer code UPVOTED, UPVOTED. This episode is brought to you by FreshBooks. FreshBooks makes your accounting tasks easy, fast, and secure. Start sending invoices, time tracking, and capturing expenses in minutes. I'm a big fan of FreshBooks because it's especially designed for startups and makes things incredibly easy. For a 30-day free trial with no credit card required, go to freshbooks.com/upvoted. That's freshbooks.com/UPVOTED.
I'm Jordan X. Annie, and I am the focus, I suppose, of a crazy viral Reddit story. I grew up just north of Toronto in a small little community called Mansfield, Ontario. It's about 100 people. Went to high school nearby in a community of 2,000 people, and then have spent most of my adult life in Toronto. I was bullied profusely during elementary school and high school. 10 years of bullying every single day, just brutal. And I had almost no self-worth. I was depressed. I didn't really know if I had a future at all or what that would look like. And it's something that, really impacted me very much and still impacts me to this day. But one of the reasons I was able to get over the majority of it was that after high school, I rode my bike across Canada. And being in that experience of, for the first time in my life, integrating myself with other people, being outside of your element and being on your own, it taught me more about myself and about the world, others, common humanity, my future, my passion, what made me tick than anything I've ever done in my life. And I sincerely believe that I would not at all be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for that experience.
While it would have been nice to just travel the world for a living, Jordan eventually settled into a job in real estate.
I had a good career in real estate development. Before that, I did some marketing and market research. I kind of guess I've been on the corporate side of things for 6 or 7 years. And I'm not at all a corporate kind of guy. So it was one of those things that just sort of happened.
During this time, he developed a serious relationship with a woman named Elizabeth Gallagher. Her name will become an important part of our story.
I originally met Liz in 2011. We dated briefly. It wasn't the right time and place, and we ended up dating a little bit more a couple of years later, and we were together for about a year. We decided a couple of years ago that we were going to spend basically all of our money and extra time on traveling and seeing the world, because you only have these years once, and I think both of us shared a fear of, if we didn't do it now, when would we?
Jordan bought plane tickets around the world for Elizabeth and himself for Christmas. Now, while that may sound extravagant, Jordan actually found a pretty cool exploit that made the trip much more affordable.
The ticket was at a pretty good deal. I don't know if you heard about Glitch Trip. Glitch Trip is essentially a pricing malfunction on a major travel website that if you flew from New York to Milan and then from Prague to basically anywhere in Asia, the fares were very cheap. Like, between 120 and like $700, depending on when you wanted to go. And then you had to buy full price return, but I mean, come on, you're going around the world basically for very cheap. So while it was a nice gesture, and I am indeed a very caring person, it's not like I paid $15,000 for the ticket.
Even though Jordan and Elizabeth had this trip around the world already planned, they decided they were not meant to be and broke up.
Well, first and foremost, I gave myself 30 days, to sit around and be like, I'm not going to think about anything. You know how post breakups are, it just sucks. You mope around for a bit. So after 30 days was over, I was like, okay, now I'm going to actually start figuring stuff out. So my first move was try to change the name on the ticket. And some airlines are really cool about it. Others aren't. The three primary airlines of this trip were all, a bunch of dicks about it. They really weren't having it. I even actually explained the story to, like, if you can imagine, like a customer service person at Air France. And believe me, they do not care, as I learned. And all three airlines shared the same policy, which is totally insane. But it's, you can only change your name on a ticket if you get married, if you get divorced, or if you die. So that someone else can use the ticket. I was like, okay, well, none of those three things happened, and I wasn't even going to try to lie about someone dying, so I immediately cut that off. And then, but somebody said to me, hey man, what are you doing with the trip? Are you still going? And I said, yeah, I've decided that I'm going to go alone and just make the best of it and really enjoy the experience and change up the itinerary a bit so it doesn't feel like it's the same trip. And he said, well, that's cool, but I was thinking, Elizabeth Gallagher is a fairly typical name. So why wouldn't you, try to find somebody else with that same name and give them the ticket? Because the trip was paid for. What do you care? And then at least it's not going to waste. And immediately the whole table burst into laughter. Like it was the most preposterous thing that anyone had ever said. Me too. My reaction was like, that is a really stupid but crazy idea. And then we went on and talked about it in a little bit more detail and brushed it off. Didn't really think anything more of it. I went home that night, didn't think one thought about it. I was in my office the next day. I have this habit of always sort of getting things lined up on Sunday for the week ahead. And I was in my office doing some paperwork, and I was going through some files, yada, yada, yada. And then the thought popped back into my mind because I was dealing with something to do with the trip and taking time off for work. So it sort of sparked my memory. I was like, oh, well, that was an interesting wine-induced thought. I wonder if it makes any sense. And I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, no, that's crazy. And then so I went on with my day. And at one point, I was back on my computer in the afternoon. And I went to Reddit. And, I have been an active peruser of Reddit for quite some time, but I never actually posted. So, long-time listener, first-time caller kind of thing. And I made an account, and I started, writing this thing out, just kind of in Word. And I was looking around in tandem to see, like, if I wanted to reach out, where would it go? What thread? and so I get about halfway through writing this thing, and I'm reading it back to myself, thinking, like, two thoughts. One, this is so crazy it might work. And secondly, this is just crazy. And just kind of balancing those out. So I closed my laptop. I'm like, no, you know what? This is too much. Like I pride myself on trying to be a little out of the box day to day. But the thought of this thing and this opportunity, it just seemed like a little much. So I left it there. And then even later in the day, I went back and I opened up my laptop again and I saw the Word document. I said, you know what, screw it. let's see, let's be bold here. Let's think a little differently. There's no reason to be scared or nervous. Just see what happens. And at this point, I was thinking that nothing was going to happen. I thought that, even if I did post this thing on Reddit, that it was going to be voted down forever until the gallows of the worst posts ever on Reddit, where, only the lamest jokes go and die. I thought that's where it was going to be. I had no idea what would happen. So eventually I finished the post. I decided I was going to post it in the travel, in r/travel. And so I posted there, and then within a minute it was flagged and taken down. And I was like, what is going on? And of course, first time poster on Reddit. I wasn't familiar with the moderation techniques, and a moderator sent me a message because I inquired about why it had been taken down. I said, oh, well, this is very much a Canadian issue. This has no global interest whatsoever. So you should put it in the Canada thread. And looking back on that now, that's of course a very comical thing. But so I wasn't going to repost it. I thought, okay, well, this is a sign. I'm not a religious guy. I'm not a spiritual guy really, but I just, I know when to take a cue from the universe sometimes. And then I said, screw it. and again, I put it in the Canada thread. I posted it on my Facebook, and I said something like, internet, don't fail me now. And that was it. I went to sleep, and I wake up the next morning and look at my phone, as we all do when we wake up in the morning, and there was 356 notifications on my Facebook. And I hit that little globe button and saw the drop down and realized that this thing had been shared by hundreds of people organically. And hundreds of people had commented on all these articles. It was, saying things like, is this for real? This is the best thing I've ever read. This guy's an idiot, and everything in between. And I just remember this sinking feeling of holy, is this about to blow up? Is this blowing up? Is this what early stage viral is? Is it not? Can I kill it? Is it real? Do I have to kill it? Is it just a blimp on the radar? Is it just a fluke? And then I checked my email account. And, foolishly, I had posted my email address on this thing. So my email account was jammed, and it was people, again, that were either well-wishers, asking if it was for real, all the way to journalists. And at that point, my stomach officially, sunk to the floor. And I realized that this thing was about to blow up. This was Monday morning. So what was funny about the first week is I was actually working my day job, too. And again, working in real estate development, it's pretty heavy duty work, and I had quite a bit of responsibility. So that morning I went into a major board meeting, and I remember, just this split tension between, presenting to this board, and on the flip side, also, checking my phone every now and again, being like, is it still going? Is it still going? Oh my God, it's still going. How on earth is this still going? And then as I was leaving this meeting in the morning, this is probably about 10:30, 11 in the morning. The secretary of the office I was in turned to me and she said, oh my God, I saw that thing that you put online. And this was the first person that had physically acknowledged to me what was online, right? Until this point, I felt a little bit of comfort because it was just on the internet. And it was at that point, I was like, okay, well, it's over. I can't even fight this thing.
At this point, Jordan found himself going from being your average private Canadian citizen to suddenly being thrust into the public sphere overnight. And all because of a post he made on a lark.
Within the first 48 hours, the social media impressions were about 40 million. What I was worried about at this point was, of course, this was implicating Elizabeth. And that was something that was really, really hard. And it was freaking me out. Because again, we had an amicable split. It's someone I cared for and care for today. And you're implicating this person, in this crazy viral thing. It was awful. It was absolutely gut-wrenching for that one single fact. I'm a fairly private guy. I didn't mind my privacy going by the wayside here, but I hated the idea that people were going to be trying to find her and get her opinion on it and everything else. So what I wanted to do was try to get ahead of the story and go into the media and say definitively, leave our relationship alone, leave Elizabeth alone. I'll do whatever I have to do, but just leave her out of it, please.
And faced with all of this newfound fame, Jordan decided to do something a little unusual. After the break, we'll discover how Jordan took heartbreak, turned it into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a total stranger on the internet, and then turned that into a remarkably charitable endeavor. This episode of Upvoted is brought to you by FreshBooks. I'm a huge fan of FreshBooks because it's a cloud accounting platform that makes everything easy. You can keep track of invoices, expenses, and even time tracking. You couldn't ask for a better one. FreshBooks has incredible time-saving features, terrific mobile apps, and their software is flexible enough to meet even the most specific needs of your business. It can handle everything from different tax rates to discounts to compatibility with an array of payment processors. And that's why I've been a long-time FreshBooks user and recommend it to startups everywhere. For a 30-day free trial with no credit card required, go to freshbooks.com/upvoted. That's freshbooks.com/UPVOTED. So at this point in our story, Jordan has offered a free trip around the world to anyone named Elizabeth Gallagher with a Canadian passport. And the whole world knows about it.
I heard from hundreds of Elizabeth Gallaghers around the world. The range was substantive. I think on the youngest side, probably around 20 or 22 up to 64. The global reach was, well, global. There was Elizabeth Gallaghers from around the world. Despite me saying very clearly, are you Canadian? But whatever. 18 Canadians. And no joke aside, I was looking for someone that could really benefit from the trip. Like someone that hasn't had the opportunity to see much of the world in detail. And someone that would really just enjoy it. Oh, the other factor was I really did want someone to do something good for someone one day. So I just sort of went on a gut check of who might do that. But things got more complicated. This was all of a sudden a global story. And when you have a global story and you bring in somebody else, inevitably, what is going to happen is that person will be implicated, right? And so I need to make sure that whoever was going to be part of this was okay with that. It wasn't like Survivor. I wasn't voting people off the island based upon skill testing questions. It was pretty human. And at the end of the day, when it came down to Quinn, like we got each other, which was really important, of course. We had a very similar sense of humor and cadence. It just felt like it was going to be cool with her and that we would be able to sort of weather this media together. And we did. And we developed a really cool brother-sister-like relationship out of it. And looking back on it now, it's really probably the best case that could have come from this whole thing.
And thanks to an offer from Marriott, which if anyone there is listening should be advertising on Reddit even more, Jordan and Quinn, also known as Elizabeth Quinn Gallagher, got to have their own separate hotel rooms.
It came about in a really funny way. I think they tweeted on the second or third day of this whole thing, and they just said, "Hey, Jordan, if you find Elizabeth, the rooms are on us." And that was it.
When a story like this breaks, it no longer just belongs to the Our Canada community, or even Jordan or Quinn or their trip around the world. It belonged to everybody who resonated with it. Jordan kept getting responses from people all over the planet.
For some reason, I think somehow in the Thai news, it got out that I was looking for a wife from Thailand. So I had these emails by the hundreds that were essentially marriage vows. And, and you're reading these things and you're like, oh, this is kind of unusual. One of the most touching things, I think this is really important. One of the most touching things that came out of this were emails from people that were also explaining how they were unable to travel and see the world. And it wasn't just from anybody. These were people that were overcoming things. One story sticks out. A woman named Jessica, that's 26. She has 2 kids, age 1 and age 3. And she explained that although she's terminally ill with lung disease and has 5 years left, that her biggest fear in dying wasn't death. It wasn't saying goodbye to her baby girls because she had accepted those things as inevitable. But what she was most afraid of was that her girls wouldn't have the chance to travel the world because she didn't herself. And you think about the power of that. And, while this story was lighthearted and fun and something that the world got behind, there was another side to it about people reaching out with these very real, terminal illness is so far beyond adversity, but these very real life circumstances that are unfathomable to the majority of us about what has stopped them from traveling and what are their fears around that. And it brought out this common humanity and wanting to see the world and wanting to be able to go and explore and wanting to be able to really understand, I think, how small we all are. And that to me is really the most unexpected part of all of this. And this wasn't just 1 or 2 emails. This was 1,000 to 1,500 emails, just like that, which of course prompted in turn the launch of A Ticket Forward, a charity to help people just like that. Because what we had realized is that there was no one in the charitable space that was dedicated to helping people see the world that really need it and that could benefit from the transformative nature of travel. Airlines have foundations, but it's more dedicated to people that have to travel for funerals and other worthwhile elements. And then you have Children's Wish or Make-A-Wish, and of course doing incredible worthwhile work. But when you look at this idea of survivors and this subsection of the population of those that have survived cancer, have survived abuse of a number of different kinds, or warfare, and specifically that's veterans and displaced people. All 3 of those groups can benefit profoundly from going on the trip of a lifetime. And I'm not talking about going to Cancun and drinking rum punch on the beach. I'm talking about going to places where you reconnect with your roots, going to places to have an awakening about how small we really are in this world, and really trying to get people in touch, not only with themselves, but with the world. So going back to A Ticket Forward, we've built a charity that is active in Canada and the US that is dedicated to helping others experience that. And we created over the span, if you can believe it, of about 3 weeks. Time was of the essence because we wanted to get the charity out there while the media cycle was still on the story. And that's why we kept the story in the media a little bit. We were getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of inbound inquiries, and it was going to be unavoidable. And part of the logic was, well, look, people want to know how the story's going to end, and that's fine. But let's try to do some good with it as well. And let's try to reorient the conversation over time to this conversation about helping people. And when I look at what we've been able to accomplish as a team, now going back, less than 2 months, it's pretty profound. And so when we look at 2015, 2016, 2017, I think we're going to be able to help a lot of people. And again, it all began with the outpouring from this one post. And it's just a testament, again, to what happens when you put something out into the world and you just see what the reaction is and what nerves you strike. And also, on the flip side, how you react. Setting up a charity right away was a very quick and swift move because I knew that I wanted to do something good with this. And that's just me as a person. I always want to do something that's worthwhile. I'm not a fame-seeking guy. I'm not the kind of person that wants any of the attention that's coming from this, but I am somebody that believes that when given a platform, you have the opportunity and kind of the obligation in a way to do something noble with it. So that's all that we've been trying to do. We've been really trying to reorient the story over time. And I think it's working because now we've reached a whole global audience of supporters in huge numbers. When we announced the Ticket Forward, we got 573 million media impressions globally of the charity. And when you start playing with those numbers, you start building up a massive group of supporters right away. And again, these are people that believe what I believe, that travel is transformative. And it all goes back to the beginning of the story. There's a couple different areas where the Reddit community can get involved. One is help us spread the word. I think, with these sorts of initiatives early on, I think the natural reaction is for people in my situation to say, we need money, make a donation, sponsor someone's trip, which is totally worthwhile. But I think, the higher impact right now is, to build out a community of people that believe in what we believe and want to be part of it. Because that will do so much more over the next, say, 10, 15, 20 years than just someone giving us $20. Whatever the Reddit community feels compelled to provide and or collaborate with us on, I think that's wonderful. It's really important to stress that all of this started with the Reddit community. All of it.
And all of this work on A Ticket Forward happened before Jordan and Quinn even left for their trip, where they visited Milan, Prague, Bangkok, and New Delhi. Fortunately, they turned out to be great travel companions and even got into a bit of trouble along the way.
In Prague, we hung out with a lot of locals, and it was really cool because that's Prague's one of those cities where there's so much tourists and nonsense that being able to hang out with like real locals gives you a totally different sense of this place. So we were out and about one night wandering around with, I think there's like a group of 6 or 7 of us. And we're walking down this cobblestone street, as you do in Prague. And Quinn broke off from the group and was looking for a washroom. So she went down this alley, and in this little door, it looked like a small little restaurant kind of thing. And she sort of waved back and said, okay, just wait here, guys. I'm just going to go in and pee. And we're like, okay, yeah. And we're chatting out on the street. 10 minutes passes, she doesn't come back. 15 minutes passes, she doesn't come back. None of us, of course, have working phones except for the people that live there, so we didn't want to divide up. But eventually, I just said, okay, I'm going to go in and find her and figure out what's going on. So I go in, and it's like some sort of hybrid place I've never really imagined. Like, it was like part casino, part men's club, part adult club, and part, like very obvious drug front. And it's like in this weird little basement area, there's all sorts of smoke and God knows what in the air. And I walk in and I go to the bar, and the bartender's looking at me like I'm a fish out of water because, obviously I was. And I said, I'm looking for my blonde friend because obviously he's not going to know her name. So he points to the back, and then I go down to this corridor in the back and out this back door. But you open up this one door at the end of the corridor. There's no open doors in that whole hallway. So you open up this one door at the end, and that was like this white room. And what it turned out to be, it was actually a part of a subway station. But it looked really weird because I was coming from this coke den, effectively, into this white room that was like very purgatory-esque. And of course, at this point at night, the subway station was long closed. Like, this is like 3 or 4 in the morning. So it's totally locked down. So nobody's in there. But apparently they were indicating that Quinn had somehow wandered in here. I was like, oh, great, here we go. And I walked around. I was trying to open up all these doors. I was banging on anything that wouldn't open, just saying, Quinn. And then, it was like a bit of a labyrinth. Like, around every corner, there was like more hallways and stuff. Like, I don't know who designed this subway station, but they had like some like really weird, twisted Children of the Corn-esque sort of personality. So we're wandering about. Can't find her. It's about, I don't know, I probably hadn't seen Quinn at this point, almost a half hour, maybe a little bit more. And by this point, everyone else that we were with is also running around, and we're banging on doors, blah, 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 blah. I ended up being able to jimmy open this one hallway door, and went in, and there was another row of doors in there, and I heard like this like sort of weep, and ended up opening a couple doors, and then I got to this third one, and it was Quinn sitting on the ground, and she was so like, I think she thought she was like done for in there. Like, it was literally, like a corridor within a corridor within a corridor in a closed down subway station behind a coke den, only in Prague.
While Jordan didn't get to share this trip with all 170 million of us on Reddit, he did want to share these parting words with all of you.
As a first-time poster on Reddit, and as somebody that had all of this happen as an outcome of the Reddit community, I would say thank you for seeing the humility in all of this and for sharing it, and for commenting on it and being part of it. I think, while the response to all of this has, of course, been very mixed, there was a very positive element of support from the Reddit community that was well pronounced. And I think it was that initial enthusiasm that enabled me to sort of feel a little bit better about all the craziness in the first month and some of the really difficult moral questions, because it started on this high ground, and I thank the Reddit community for that.
Granted, this all got started in the R Canada community, and Canadians are known for their generally positive demeanors. But it is exciting to see what can happen when a random story about trying to find a replacement Elizabeth Gallagher can turn into such an adventure, not just for the 2 people who took the trip, but for so many others who are now going to be affected by this nonprofit and by something that, if it weren't for a bunch of your upvotes, may not have ever happened. After this short break, I'll expand on what I mean and the importance of Jordan paying it forward. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. We're big fans of Squarespace over here. And I'm sure everybody's seen that new Super Bowl ad with Jeff Bridges. He has a record of sleeping sounds and hosts it on a Squarespace site, which is dreamingwithjeff.com. All the proceeds of that record go to No Kid Hungry. But seriously, this sounds amazing. The website also looks pretty nice. That's all Squarespace. Even the audio player is pretty cool. And the best part? It doesn't take a lot of work to make your site look great. And all of this is only $8 a month. And if it's good enough for Jeff Bridges, it should be good enough for you. For a free trial with no credit card required, just head to squarespace.com. When you're blown away and ready to confirm a plan, use the offer code UPVOTED to get 10% off. Also, Redditors, if you've got a Squarespace site you want to show off, email it to upvoted@reddit.com. We might even give you a shout out on the next episode. You'll be getting a great deal and you will be supporting this podcast. That's squarespace.com, offer code UPVOTED. Now, I remember this story bubbling up and thinking, okay, cool. He's going to find a bunch of Elizabeth Gallaghers and choose one, and they're going to go on a fun trip, and hopefully OP will deliver with some kind of interesting anecdotes or stories after the fact. But what I didn't expect was that Jordan, once he had had this serendipitous moment happen, would use all of that attention on him to pay it forward. It's really hard to predict what will go viral, right? I'm putting that in quotes. And when it does happen, more often than not, the story bubbles up, the thing happens, and then everyone goes back to their daily lives, and we move on to the next one. What's really interesting is that Jordan was already thinking about how he could leverage all of that attention into a nonprofit that would help make travel something that would be more accessible to more people. As someone who was lucky enough to travel and spend a lot of nights in some really interesting hostels and get a lot of new experiences, I know firsthand what a difference it can make in someone's life. And it's rare, I hate to say it, but it's rare that you get people thinking this way when fortune smiles upon them. And it's heartening, really. It's heartening to see that Jordan is now offering this chance to a lot of very deserving people. If you go check out the website, and you really should, it's aticketforward.org, spelled just as you would expect it to be, aticketforward.org. You can see all the people who are fundraising right now and their stories for why they want the chance to have this life-changing event. And if you're like me and you've had this opportunity, if you've been able to travel, if you've been able to soak up different cultures, different languages, different people, you've also realized that no matter where you go, there is still this shared humanity. I wish I could give everyone the chance to experience the gift that is travel. And, maybe we can do something about that. Tell you what, I'm going to donate $1,000 to this nonprofit. I'll put my money where my mouth is. And you, the listeners of Upvoted, can decide to whom that money will go. Once you are done listening to this episode, head over to r/upvoted or upvoted.reddit.com and join the comment thread for episode 4, this episode. And let us know which of the worthy people on aticketforward.org I should give the $1,000 to. And maybe you'll join me if you can. And if you can't, that's cool. Maybe spread the word. That would be helpful. Either way, I just hope you enjoyed Jordan's story. You can check out Jordan Xani on Twitter at Jordan Xani. That's JordanAxani. And you should check out A Ticket Forward. Again, that's aticketforward.org. You can reach me, as always, on the Twitters at Alexis Ohanian and over at r/upvoted. One other thing, if you happen to be a Reddit Gold member, that is, if you've either paid for the Gold membership or been gilded that membership, thank you, because that helps support podcasts like this and Reddit as a whole. You will get access to every episode a day early as our way of saying thank you for being a Reddit Gold member. So if you want to catch those episodes, just show up at the Lounge, that's r/lounge or lounge.reddit.com on Wednesday afternoons. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to Upvoted on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or Overcast, whichever you prefer. And please keep the feedback coming. We had a really good comment suggestion thread going on r/upvoted. It's never too late. Let us know how we're doing. And let's do this again next week on Upvoted by Reddit.